And then it's important, as you say, the mystical tradition is to know that you don't control others with these tools, but only yourself. So that is perhaps a very important point, because we are, of course, in a society where people want to give something or help others out of goodwill. But when you do that, you quickly find yourself in the situation of directing someone else.
Well, simply by being you, you are collected within yourself, and therefore you have a massive charisma, and this peace will then fill the room. But if you are dissatisfied with the other person, or are unhappy because you are not achieving your communication goal with the other person, you radiate this unhappiness.
Hans, do you want to read it out loud? What is it then?
I just had this published, and it is a letter from Rainer Maria Hoche. I believe that almost all of our sadnesses are moments of tension that we experience as paralysis because we can no longer hear our alienated feelings living, because we are alone with the stranger that has entered us, because everything familiar and accustomed has been taken away from us for a moment, because we are in the middle of a transition where we cannot stand still. That's why the sadness passes. What is new in us, what has been added, has entered our heart, gone into its innermost chamber and is no longer there, is already in the blood, and we don't find out what it was. We could easily be led to believe that nothing has happened, and yet we have been transformed, as a house is transformed into which a guest has entered. We can't say who came, we may never know, but there are many signs that the future will come to us in such a way, to transform into us long before it happens. That's why it's so important to be lonely and mindful when you're sad. Because the apparently uneventful and rigid moment when our future comes to us is so much closer to life than that other loud and random moment when it happens to us as if from outside. The quieter, more patient and more open we are as sad people, the deeper and more undeterred the new thing enters us. The better we acquire it, the more it will be our destiny. And when it happens one day later, we will feel close to him, that is, from within ourselves to the others. And that is necessary. It is necessary, and that is where our development will gradually go. That nothing strange happens to us, only what has been ours for a long time. We have had to rethink so many concepts of movement. One will also gradually learn to recognize that what we call fate comes out of people, not into them from outside. It was only because so many did not absorb their fates while they lived in them and transformed them into themselves that they did not recognize what was coming out of them. It was so strange to them that in their confused terror, they thought it must have entered into them just now, because they swore that they had never found something similar in themselves before. Just as people have long been deceived about the movement of the sun, so people are still deceived about the movement of what is to come. Of course, it will happen that we are cheating, because all points, what our eyes used to rest on, will be taken away from us. There is nothing close anymore, and everything far is infinitely distant. Anyone who would be placed on the heights of a large mountain range from their room with almost no preparation or transition would have to feel something similar. An insecurity without equal, a price to be given, a nameless one would almost destroy him. You would avoid falling or being thrown out into space or blown up into 1,000 pieces. We must embrace our existence as much as possible. Everything, even the unheard of, must be possible within it. That is basically the only courage that is asked of us. To be courageous in the face of the strangest, most wondrous and inexplicable things that we can encounter. The fact that people were cowardly in this sense caused infinite damage to life. But we are not prisoners. There are no traps and snares around us, and there is nothing. What should scare or torment us? We are placed in life as the element to which we most correspond. And through thousands of years of adaptation, we have become so similar to this life, that when we remain still, even a happy mimicry can hardly be distinguished from everything that surrounds us. We have no reason to be suspicious of our world because it is not against us. If she is frightened, then they are our frights. If it has abysses, these abysses belong to us. If there are dangers, we must try to love them. And if we only organize our lives according to the principle that advises us that we must always stick to what is difficult, then what now seems the most foreign to us will become our most familiar and faithful. How can we forget those ancient myths that stand at the beginning of all peoples, the myths of dragons that transform into princesses at the last moment? Maybe all the dragons in our lives are princesses, just waiting to see us beautiful and brave. Maybe, deep down, everything terrible is the helpless thing that wants help from us.
It's the one with the two wolves again.
Yes, unbelievable.
Yes, where we do not take responsibility for controlling, we are the ones being controlled. Where we have fear and concentrate on fear, as we approach it, it becomes even greater.
But I find it quite interesting. I've just experienced it for the first time. I love art. I love the aesthetic. I love pictures. I love literature. I love music. But the most important thing is that it happens in the moment. So what's really happening is that we're allowing ourselves to be these poets, these storytellers of our lives now. Rilke also encourages us to do this, and every great artist encourages us to do this, that we take it into our hands, and not, perhaps this is a big problem with our current society, that we have so sanctified what is creative and creative, so to speak, that we have separated it from ourselves, and we just left it to the others and said, we'll leave it to the professionals, just like we left everything to the professionals. And I believe that this exceptional time is asking us to lend a hand ourselves, to become creative ourselves. Self, exactly what you said earlier about self-empowerment also applies in the creative sense.
Your life as your work of art.
Exactly. And good art encourages you to do that. So of course you can museumize good art in such a way that it becomes completely alienated, but actually it inspires us to be creative ourselves. Exactly.
Thanks.
I'm jumping with excitement again. To be honest, I'm so touched because I think it's an extremely difficult time to talk to each other in a relaxed manner, and that we've managed to develop joy and enthusiasm. That really gives me a lot of courage and hope and confidence.
Me too.
Thanks. And your timing is wonderful too.
Yes, this is the Easter conversation.